The Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game is one of the most strategic, intensely gratifying card games out there, rewarding players with innovative deck building, shrewd technical play, and boundless game knowledge. However, new and aspiring players still face arguably the biggest barrier to entry for competitive play, the extremely steep price points for the most powerful cards available. But what if we tried to remove that barrier? In this series, we're going to be maximizing the value of every penny at our disposal to see how well we can perform on a constrained budget. Each season, we'll be investing a baseline of $50 USD into an affordable deck core comprised of the most cost-effective singles on TCG player. For just an additional $10 per week, we'll continually expand on that core, transforming our build into the most competitive deck possible. Welcome to Rise of the Budget Duelist. Alrighty everybody, welcome back to the series, and after last week's pretty good showing of actually managing to top our locals for the first time with the Budget Burning Abyss deck, unfortunately I do have to be the bearer of some bad news this week because our locals is actually going to be closed this weekend for the 4th of July. So that's pretty unfortunate for us. However, as a substitute, I will actually just be going over to a friend's house and we're going to be recording a match or two, and that will be our replacement. I didn't really want to go back to remote duels. Not that there's anything wrong with them, of course. They're a great substitute, but after tasting real life play again, it's kind of hard to go back for me personally. So that's what we're going to be doing, and hopefully that'll be great for you guys to just kind of watch some more real life gameplay. So as a result, this episode might be a bit shorter than normal, but that's just kind of how things are. Got to take these things as they come on a weekly basis. But anyways, because of the fact that we're not going to be playing in actual locals for this weekend, I figured that this would afford us some liberty to actually make some experimental changes to our deck, namely in the side deck here. Not only is it a brand new format, it's only about a week or two in as you guys are watching this video, but we also have a surplus budget thanks to our winnings from last week's locals. If you guys haven't checked out the previous episode, I would invite you to do so in the playlist in the description. But we're going to go ahead and just kind of mess around with some things. If they work out, they work out. And if not, we'll just go ahead and try again in future weeks. But what we're going to be doing actually is going to be swapping out our playset of Forbidden Chalice in the side deck for 3 copies of Shaddoll Fusion. Now, this is definitely a risky kind of way to invest our money because these, alongside the app clone, kind of add up in price as far as the $10 weekly budget is concerned. And we're actually going to be going over a little bit over the $10 mark for this week. But again, we have some wiggle room to work with, and I think this is going to be a pretty interesting way to help combat going second, because we really don't have that many going second cards in the deck just in general. So I think this is a great way to kind of help break boards. App clone is a great way to kind of negate stuff and force disruptions. Meanwhile, Shaddoll Fusion setting stuff like Aerial and Dragon helps to break opposing follow-up plays, which is definitely really important. I did consider playing Winda in this slot instead of App Clone here, simply because you can be more flexible in sending BA monsters off Shaddoll Fusion. Stuff like sending Farfa or Skarm could be pretty good. But that being said, I felt like App Clone was a better board breaker, which I feel is the Shaddoll Fusion's intended purpose. So that's why I went with that card as well. Also, Winda can kind of be awkward at times if you can't reliably, get it off the board. We do play Gravity Controller, which is pretty incidental synergy, which is pretty nice. But of course, I think App Clone is strong enough to break boards. It kind of fulfills the role of sending Farfa anyways in a lot of cases. So I think that that is a pretty, solid way to help, again, kind of just solve the problem of the fact that we don't have any hand traps. We're not going to be getting many hand traps in the near future. So this is going to be kind of our surrogate for the time being. Additionally, we're going to replace the 2 copies of Lost Wind as well as one of the copies of Heavy Storm Duster in the side deck with 3 copies of Anti-Spell Fragrance, and that's actually going to round out the changes for this week. So yeah, Anti-Spell I think is pretty self-explanatory. I should put this in the middle of the frame here. But Anti-Spell, definitely really good against things like Striker coming back into the metagame, and just a lot of decks in general that are pretty spell heavy, and also a lot of the cards that really would help break our back row, things like Lightning Storm and Harpy's Feather Duster, are definitely hindered by Anti-Spell Fragrance. So I think that this is a pretty good way to kind of protect our board. I would definitely consider playing Judgment in the future, for sure. Solemn Judgment, that is, but that card is, just a little bit too out of our price range. We could have definitely gone for it this week, but I do want to save a fair bit of money just because I want to save up a bit. I didn't actually go ahead and buy IP Masquerena, even though we actually could technically have done it, simply because we're not sure if we are going to ever get the alternate art reprint. Maybe we will sometime soon. I'm actually not sure about that, so if you guys who are product savvy can let me know in the comments. I would love to hear about when we might get that, but for the time being, also I feel like we can save for other cards as well. I think like just more general going second cards are more important. So I'd probably try and get access to the Zeus package once it gets reprinted, hopefully. But yeah, I think that these are some good changes. We'll have a fair amount of things to work with for this week as well as next week when we consider locals again. And if we do want to help again, kind of add up to our bigger purchases later down the line, we've also achieved that. So that's it for the changes for this week. So let's go ahead and run through the deck list again real fast. So the main deck has stayed pretty much exactly the same. It's going to be 3 copies of the Tour Guide, 3 Fiendish Rhino Warrior, we got 3 copies of Graph, we got 3 copies of Skarm, we have 3 Farfa, we have double copies of Seer, and then the one of BAs being Libic, Alec, Hcabe, and Barbar, and then we have Backjack and Foolish Burial to round things out. For our main deck trap lineup, we have 3 copies of Fiend Griefing, 3 copies of Compulsory Evacuation Device, 3 copies of Torrential Tribute. Our discard traps are 3 copies of Paleozoic Dynamiscus, as well as 2 copies of Phoenix Wing Windblast. And then finally, rounding it out, we got 3 copies of Breakthrough Skill. Our extra deck just has one change to it, otherwise it's exactly the same as last week. So it's going to be the 2 copies of Dante, the 1 Beatrice, of course. We got the Break Sword, Equipped Engineer, which has actually been coming up, and that's pretty interesting and funny to me. We have the 1 copy of Acid Golem to help out Dragoon. We have the Gravity Controller, again, instant on synergy with Shadal's. We have the Carabini. We have Geonator Transverser. We have Nightmare's Phoenix and Unicorn. We have Boros. We have Boros Sword. We have the Purple Dante. And then rounding it out, we have the 1 copy of the El Shadal app clone. I actually cut the copy of the Virtual World Shell Jaja in place of this. This card just really wasn't coming up for me. I didn't really feel like I ever super needed it, so I feel like the go second option in the Shadal package is going to be more worthwhile. And then finally for the side deck, we have 3 copies of Lava Golem, we have our one-ofs in Pankratops, and our 2 Shadal monsters being Ariel and Dragon. We have now the newly added 3 copies of Shadal Fusion, as well as 3 copies of Anti-Spell Fragrance. And then rounding it out, we got 2 copies of Heavy Storm Duster and 1 copy of Imperial Order. So, as usual, guys, we do want to help support this series. I invite you to go ahead and check out my affiliate links in the description box below if you want to help purchase any of these cards for yourself, or just if you want to start your own budget series for any reason. Feel free to use my TCG Player affiliate link. And also, if you want to go ahead and order your own custom sleeves or custom playmats, sleeves such as this one, for example, which is used in this entire series, go ahead and check out the Your Playmat link in the description box below and use the promo code SirEmanon10YP for 10% off of all of your purchases. And additionally, if you really are interested in helping to support the channel and some more of the higher efforts, more labor-intensive content, I definitely would appreciate it if you checked out my Patreon. I definitely want to actually step it up in terms of the level of depth to my content, and this is one of those series that will help do so. So if you guys are interested in enabling that and supporting me along the way, definitely feel free to check out my Patreon, which you can also find in the description. But let's go ahead and check out the match that I played with my friend this week. Alright everybody, as I just mentioned, this is just going to be a friendly match here between myself and my good friend Nick, again, who has recently started his YouTube channel not too long ago, so definitely go ahead and subscribe to him. I will leave a link to his channel in the description box below. But yeah, this is going to be us, of course, on the BA build versus Adagnister, which is a deck that I'm still not too seasoned playing against, but we're just kind of trying to navigate it as best as we can. I've watched the deck a lot more, so I have a better understanding of what it does, but first-hand experience-wise, not so much, so if I do make misplays, feel free to point them out in the comments as usual. But we begin with a high-value Beatrice, putting Graph and Skarm underneath it, normal summoning the Skarm so we can pitch the one in our hand, the duplicate copy that is, to make Beatrice and then trigger it in the end phase. Also setting 2 back in the process, so it's about as optimal as it gets, to be fair. We did go effectively -1, but Beatrice, having this many material under it, if we can resolve it 3 times, then we'll just be able to get so many pluses that it'll make up for the deficit. So we're just going to hope that this is enough interruptions. It kind of just depends on how many extenders the opponent opens, as well as if they have ways to kind of just play past your ways to kind of stop the either the Dark Infant or the Dark Templar, which are the 2 biggest choke points in most cases. But he goes ahead and normal summons the Picari. And I figured that actually this is a pretty good point to use my breakthrough skill, which I have set. I'm kind of deliberating on it here, but I figured that like using this and then following that up with a Farfa is potentially the best play because it doesn't really get punished by the Idol Reborn or just ways for them. You'd have to have like a hard drawn Ignister Island plus more monsters, which I guess is not too hard to accomplish, but the monster you would summon would have to also be pretty good. Like it would have to be probably a Chi-Chi specifically. So we do breakthrough skill the Picari, and then we go ahead and detach our graph of the Beatrice, because it doesn't really make sense to leave the Bakari on board just to turn into Dark Infant anyways, if we were going to stop the Bakari with the breakthrough skill. So I think either you let them get to the Dark Infant and then stop them later, or you just go ahead and stop them now. I'm not really sure what's objectively the best choice, to be fair, because I had enough resources to kind of just, prevent, say, like a Dark Templar push, which would have been okay. But instead, I had to go ahead and just, curtail things off early. And it's kind of risky because that's all just one card. Like, I'm committing a lot of resources into just a singular Bakari. But at the end of the day, he doesn't have the extension, and I feel like a lot of the times, if you're able to just survive that initial push, that's also pretty good. You saw we resolved the backtrack first effect. We didn't actually banish it during the end phase or anything because we didn't hit any traps. So we're just going to go ahead and draw for turn. We know the tour guide that we searched previously, but you see he actually has a Forbidden Chalice, which you'll notice he didn't use on the Beatrice the previous turn, but that's because we, of course, detached the graph. And that's kind of the point to make the high value Beatrice, is that, you don't really lose out to cards that, negate it that much if you are already detaching something that's pretty good. So that's why, we decided to do it there. It also plays around Nibiru again. But yeah, we go ahead and attack for some damage with the Chalice boost, aiding in that process. And then we're going to go and detach our Dante main phase too. Going to go for Seer Dante stuff. The good old classic. I decided to go ahead and go for the back row here, which you could argue is a bit of a mistake because, Ignister doesn't tend to play too much back row. So it's not likely it's going to be reactive, but some lists do play things like Rivalry or like Imperma stuff like that. So it's good maybe to just try and force it. I don't really have much else to do with this tour guide anyways, so I decided to just go and make a Nightmare Phoenix to see what the back row is. I actually do declare Dante, as you see, but I forget to resolve it because he chains out of a board, and then I chain Fiend Griefing, which is super profitable. So I decided to just take that trade while I can, and we're going to go and Griefing, send another Fiend. We did pitch the Scarm that we added off of I think we added it. Oh no, we drew it for turn because we stacked it off of the backjack. But yeah, the Dante added back the Seer the first time, and then this Dante was supposed to also add back something, but here I just completely forgot to resolve it. So that's on me. I just completely missed that. We're gonna go ahead and Barbar burn for 900, which is what we sent off the Fiend Griefing just to get some damage in, because again, every little bit of damage in this build counts. As you'll actually see in game 2, that definitely comes up. But we're going to go ahead and search for another copy of Tour Guide. I should have 3 cards in my hand, but I only have 2. So, again, nobody really realized that I just forgot to resolve the Dante, even though I declared it, but not a big deal. He's going to go ahead and summon another copy of Pagari, which he picked up. So that's going to grab him a copy of Innister Island. And that's kind of what I'm talking about, where it's like, is it really worth it to kind of just stop the early play if they're able to just go for it again next turn? So maybe it was worth it for me to kind of like hold my breakthrough skill, hold the Beatrice, and just save it for stuff like the Dark Templar, which maybe could have been just better used. But regardless, he is going to go and grab double copies of the Ignister Island right there. And then he's going to be activate the island. And he has a Baruru in hand, I believe. So that's what he's going to be summoning off of this. And then the Baruru is going to go and dump something else. So him just kind of biding my time with Beatrice. I don't really feel like stopping any of this is that needed. I just want to stop something that actually threatened the board, or will make, the Arrival Cybers, which is the big boss monster that's unaffected by everything. So any avenues to actually make that, or just be able to clear my board, aka an access code push, are the things that I'm mainly looking out for here, because that is actually my only interruption, and that's kind of the problem when you don't draw a lot of traps. Like when your backjack just hits a bunch of monsters, which seems to happen a lot in this series. So maybe I do have to fix that for the upcoming episodes. But you'll see that he goes into Splash Mage, which is going to go ahead and bring back an additional body. This, I think, is where he probably should have sent the Doyon instead of the Achichi, which is what he did end up sending, because he forgot that Splash Mage actually negates the effect of the Achichi right here. And that definitely is a big deal for sure. Because if he had Doyon, then he could go and add back the Auto Reborn, which could, kind of flow into more resources next turn. Although, like, getting the Achichi into rotation is not bad. It's just the fact that he doesn't really have any way to make profitable use out of it at the current moment. So that definitely, I think, is something to note. Also, something to note is that he also is pretty new to the deck. I think he just picked up this deck not too long before we started playing, like maybe a couple of days prior. So that's also something to be aware of, is that he's kind of just trying to navigate the lines as best as he can. But he's going to go and Link Summon. I think he tries to go for the Dark Templar, but it requires 3 monsters. So, yeah, we go ahead and rewind the game state. The friend of mine who actually is watching, we actually have a third person in the room. He's actually pretty well seasoned with the Ignister deck. So he's able to kind of just catch these things. We are generally just kind of goofing around, by the way. And so I wouldn't call this the most serious playtesting environment, which, you could argue is a good thing or a bad thing. There's not really any specific events that I'm testing for at the moment. So I think it's fine to just kind of have some banter in the background. We were just definitely joking a lot of the time with a lot of stuff that we were having, like our casual conversations to the side. But we do far away the transcode, which he does eventually go for. He goes for Doshin off of the Ignister Island and then makes a Linguribo and then ends up ultimately passing. He puts the transcode actually across my Nightmare Phoenix, which makes it so that it gets the co-link benefits, and that's pretty funny. But we do detach the Skarm from our Beatrice, so we get another Skarm search. So resolving Skarm every single turn, pretty much so far, has been very, very beneficial. Every turn except for his first turn. So yeah, we're just going to go and add a copy of Hcabe. This is a bit of a weird pickup, but I do just kind of want to get the less good BAs out so we have more valuable draws later on, or later down the line. And we go and try and hit the backjack. We of course get Graph, so again, not another trap card, but Graph here isn't too bad because we do get to filter through Seer and then Seer bring back Dante for an additional body, so that definitely is pretty beneficial for us. So really not going to complain too much about that. That is one of the better hits if it wasn't going to be a trap card that it could have been. And he doesn't really have back row, so I'm not really fearing too much. It's just really the hand traps. And I also know one of the cards in hand is a copy of Ignister Island as well. So we bring Dante off the Seer, and then we're just going to draw for turn. We also picked up a tour guide from the previous turn, so that's also why I didn't feel pressure to pick up one on that end phase. So we're definitely going to have a tour guide push, and that is going to signify a lot of pressure, a lot of damage. And whenever you're resolving tour guide this many times successfully, then you're in a pretty good position. Obviously, the last one got chalice, but it still ended up being definitely fine. And you saw the the fact that having 3 materials in a Beatrice, be able to use it just use it a lot and have a lot of advantage coming from it. So we're gonna summon our tour guide. We're gonna grab Fiendish Rhino Warrior off of it, and that is going to eventually just convert into a Borosaur Dragon. I'm pretty sure the last card in his hand is actually Nibiru. But yeah, we're just going to go and link off our entire board into the Borosaur Dragon, playing around it. This is just 3 summons, and he's pretty low in life, and also I'm just reading Linkuriboh to make sure it doesn't do anything, reactivate in the battle phase, unlike Linkuriboh, its cousin. But yeah, it just brings itself back from the grave. And on the field, it negates trap effects, so it doesn't really disrupt anything in the battle phase. So we're just going to go and attack for game here pretty soon. I'm just thinking if I want to do anything else here, but not really much else to do, so we're just going to swing and deal a bunch of damage, and then switching either of these 2 monsters to defense position and attacking into the Linkuriboh is going to be game, which I believe I'm in the process of just doing the math. So we pick up game 1 here, and I think that he does reveal that he has the beer, which I never actually played into. So we're going to move on into game number 2 here in just a bit. All right, so moving into game number 2 right here, he's going to obviously choose to be going first this time around. And our opening hand was really, really weird. So we drew the worst combo of BAs possible, which is Graph, Seer, plus Rhino. So it's like those are all the monsters that you want to be normal summoning in that deck, and we didn't draw any other BAs. To add to that, we also opened 2 Dynamiscus, and we're going to draw the 3rd one for turn. So very, very awkward hand, but also he drew pretty awkward. He starts by activating the Ignister Island, and then I think my friend Gabe says that he's going to read his cards and then take that play back. So I'm not really sure what's in his hand. I can't really quite see, but he's going to set 1 and then just pass. But yeah, we draw the 3rd copy of Dynamiscus, which you can kind of see my reaction right there. But we're going to just try our best to push. I'm feeling okay about it because, our opponent just set 1 and passed, right? So we're going to go ahead and summon our monsters, but he's going to flip a Rivalry, which is going to put a damper to our plays. So Nightmare Phoenix is a pretty good out to it, and I could use it here to just pop the Rivalry and get it out of the way immediately, but I actually decide against it because, I don't really think it's worth it to waste our Graph. Since I special summoned it, I wouldn't be able to special summon anything from the deck this turn. And then Rhino sending Skarm is fine because I have Dynamiscuses, so I could just get more high value things to pitch. You can see him just attacking for some damage there. But yeah, I decided against it, and you could argue that was maybe a bit greedy, that I should have just outed it right now when I had the chance to, because it was just kind of a clear open game state. But I decided to just go ahead and set 2 of the Dynamiscuses, leaving the 3rd one in hand just as pitch fodder, and then we pass. He picks up a copy of Sign Up Mining, which is a very, very good draw from him. He's going to pitch the Nibiru, which has so far not really been putting in the work. And then he's going to search for, I believe, a copy of a Chi-Chi. So, yeah, he is in a pretty good spot. He decides to go ahead and normal summon it. I don't opt to use Dynamiscus here, which maybe was a mistake because that would have let him go into the Dark Infant. That might have been a good choice, actually, just get it off the board. There's no guarantee that we would have the island. Well, actually, no. I saw that he tried to place the island on the field. Now I just remembered. So that's why I decided not to do it. I guess if we didn't have that information, though, maybe it would have been worth it. But, I mean, we would have gotten punished massively, right? Because then we would have had 2 islands, and I wouldn't be able to answer them. Because you're about to see I'm just going to use both my Dynamiscuses on both the Ignister islands right here, which is definitely not ideal for sure. But it's kind of what we got to do to stop the island from just kind of accruing too much advantage, because a Chi-Chi by itself already is the full combo, right? So we're just gonna stop that as soon as we can. And if he hard drew 2 copies of island and search the 3rd one off the infant there, then that's just some other level of gameplay that we're playing right here. But then again, I did draw 3 copies of Dynamiscus, so I guess anything's possible. He has Gachiri in his hand, so he's gonna special summon it. And he's just kind of thinking of what he wants to do. But yeah, the card that you saw pitched there, besides the other Dynamiscus, was the Seer, which didn't really get value there, unfortunately. And that would have been pretty decent to have if I had linked away the graph prior to link away for Nightmare Phoenix. But of course, my hand would have looked a little bit different. He eventually ladders up into Access Code by going into the Transcode play, like Splash Mage Transcode stuff. And then he pops my graph, which I use to go and summon a copy of, I believe, a Flyfer from the deck. This way, I'm just trying to stop as much damage as physically possible. It's clear to me right now that he doesn't really have too much extension beyond this. So I'm just trying to kind of wait things out, because we do know that I believe Picari is in hand, but the other one's unknown. Picari was the search off the Chi-Chi, if I remember correctly. But he's going to pop my Rhino, which sends a copy of Skarm to the graveyard. And then we're just going to go and see as he actually proceeds to just clear the Farfa, because he doesn't want the extra body on the board in case they have another BA just drawn for turn, or if I search it off Skarm, which is fair enough. So he's going to go ahead and just let the Access Code get banished. So it comes back next turn, and then end phase. My Skarm gets Ash, which is really, really unfortunate. But we ripped the tour guide, and actually this is kind of where we were laughing a bit. But in hindsight, it maybe was worth it to keep the tour guide in hand, but at the same time, I probably would have just been dead. Even though the Access Code is back on just 23, he would have had pretty much infinite pressure because he would have had Picari into everything they could want. So yeah, that wouldn't have been that great for me, because he could have gotten Idle Reborn into the Chi-Chi and stuff, and then just gone for another copy of Island and just had his whole engine online. So I decided to just commit the tour guide anyways. But yeah, the Ash that was in his hand, I believe that was since turn 1. That would have also interfered with if I had gone for Phoenix to just go and pop the rivalry. So, because that would have ashed my Rhino, since Graph couldn't have been used, right? Since I special summoned it that turn. So that definitely is something to consider. I do go ahead and just wall up with the Rhino Warrior and hope that it's good enough. He's going to Access Code pop my Rhino, and I realize here he's trying to get me to far for the Access Code so his main monster zone's cleared up. That way he can just island freely, but I decided just not to go for it, and I go for the Backjack instead. Since there's not really a whole lot of reason for him to just use the Access Code on specifically Rhino at that point, unless he's trying to get me too far. For you can see my friend, you can see Gabe over there just checking my top deck. But yeah, I think he did that prior as well. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and resolve our Backjack, and then he's going to normal summon his copy of Picari. He actually picks up a copy of I Meet You right here. And so he's just going to search for more extension along the way. He's going to go for his other copy of Dark Infant, which is going to search the last copy of the field spell. And at this point, I am not sitting in a very good spot. I have obviously just no cards at my disposal besides the Backjack, just engrave, kind of waiting here. And I actually missed a chance to use it when I could have, as you'll see in just a second here. So I believe the card he drew for turn was a Hiyari, which is another extender. So he's kind of just deliberating on his options, and he's gonna, I believe, go for the Hiyari pretty soon here, because we know his hand is I Meet You plus the Ignister Island and the card that you drew for turn. So yeah, there's a Hiyari right there, and then he's gonna go and link both those off for another copy of Splash Mage. He's on 2 of it, and this is a chance where I could have actually used the Backjack, to set Fiend Griefing, which is at the top of my deck. But I just didn't really think about the math here. I didn't really consider that he could just actually link away the access code plus his 2 monsters to just straight up make rival Cybers, because access code is a link 4, and the other 2 could just be link 1s, or 1 material, right? So that's actually just something I completely overlooked. I just thought this play would be fine, because I'm thinking here, well, he went through transcode, he went through access code, so what's the likelihood he's actually going to just OTK me this turn? So that's kind of my thought process in the moment, and I could like save the Fiend Griefing for maybe something else, just to play a bit more reactively. But yeah, he goes and just makes the rival Cybers, and I get like heavily punished for that. So that's definitely not ideal by any stretch. So it's pretty hard for this deck to out the rival Cybers, because like the only real out is Boros Sword, and if they have the Amari, then you just kind of lose. But he's gonna meet you here as well. He's gonna go and search for a dark. He's gonna add a copy of Doyon from his deck to his hand, so that's gonna allow him to recur more resources later as well. And so, yeah, we just kind of hoping that he can't really find a way to OTK us, which he didn't really go for Update Jammer either. He wasn't really able to at that point. Maybe he could have if he had gone for this play. Oh, wait, no, he already normal summoned the Pikaris, so he had to vacate his main monster zone to be able to just play from this position. So he goes to the island. Here's where I go for the Fiend Griefing, a little bit late, but now I just want to respond to Doyon at the very least, which is like fine. So he's going to go and target his Picari. I'm going to shuffle it back off the Fiend Griefing and then use the effect to send, I believe, a copy of Scarm, since now I'm kind of convinced that I'm not dead, since I know everything. I know that the Doyan's on field, and even if he pops my tour guide, it's not really going to amount to too much extra damage, I don't think. So yeah, we're just going to go and send a Scarm here. I'm pretty convinced that we survive, so that is going to be the end of that. And he goes and uses the Arrival Cybers here. That's going to pop my tour guide and summon a token, and he turns that into a copy of a Lingeribo. And then just going to go into battle phase here and just attack for some damage. So that's a fair amount, but we also do have Scarm. So we have some plays for next turn, and here's where maybe I can finally out this copy of the Rivalry, because I can finally have a card in hand to pitch, unlike last turn, where like when I ripped the tour guide, I had nothing to pitch for Phoenix, because that was the only card I had in my hand. But yeah, we're just going to go ahead and shuffle up. We're going to draw for turn. I want you to look at this reaction right here.
Is he gonna do 33 through
No, wait, I can't do it under this. No!
Yo, Codium, bro!
No! I can't do it under the Rivalry. No! No!
I'm sick! Yo, I thought he was in there.
That was so funny. Oh, no.
I thought he was in there.
I mean, even if you did it, even if I didn't have this, it wouldn't have mattered. You just summon Lava Golem Pass. It takes your normal summon.
Yeah, but it would have been funny.
It would have been hilarious, don't get me wrong.
It would have been funny. Man. Whatever. Target effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what happens when I drew the Lava Golem, but I couldn't use it, and it wouldn't have done me any good anyways. So it was actually a good thing, because maybe I would have gotten baited to just dropping it immediately and giving up the tour guide for the turn. But it turns out the tour guide actually netted me a lot more benefits than simply just dropping Lava Golem. I mean, part of that is in part because of the fact that I really just wanted to out this Rivalry. I go ahead and attack before I do anything else in main phase 2, just to get some damage in, because again, the damage will eventually add up, I think. But he is also going to use the Achichi in graveyard to kind of soak one of the hits. So we're going to do less damage to him, which is not great, but we got to clear some parts of the board, and we're going to just make our plays in main phase 2, which isn't too bad. So yeah, the Lava Golem would have been great. It would have been fantastic right there to just out the Rival Cybers, but again, Rivalry is definitely a menace. So we're going to go ahead and proceed here. I'm just kind of thinking of what I want to do, what I want to do after I go for the Nightmare Phoenix. I also consider just waiting another turn, but now that he knows I have Lava Golem, obviously it's not going to be effective. But here I'm just trying to think of what I could do, and then I forgot that Rival Cybers actually pointed upward towards my field until like right here, and here's like, oh yeah, I can just go ahead and try and get a draw off the Phoenix, and then see what we can get. So we go ahead and use Phoenix with Chain Link 1, because I want to just dump off the Rhino right here and just see what we can get. So yeah, we're going to go and send a copy of Graph, and then we're going to pitch the Lava Golem. And then we're going to just heart of the cards, draw 1, see if it's good enough, and just hope that like he doesn't have any extenders as well. But I draw also a very interesting card, as you'll see in just a bit. He has to go up and kind of get his phone right there. But yeah, I actually pick up a copy of Shaddoll Fusion, which you'll see I'm going to flip up here in a second. And here's both of the side cards that you're seeing that we changed up in our deck coming into play. So we are going to go ahead and go for Shaddoll Fusion. I actually forgot to trigger the graph there. I was just kind of reacting to Shaddoll Fusion. But again, it's just friendlies, so it's not really that big of a deal. We were taking back plays all the time earlier as well. But yeah, we're just going to go and send our Shaddoll monsters, and then we're going to go for our app clone here. And here I send Dragon and Aerial, but I elect not to use Dragon to pop because I want to app clone to permanently negate the island because that is the last copy of it. Because if I pop the pop with Shaddoll Dragon, obviously it just comes back. So I'm just not going to do it. And then here with Aerial, I'm deciding what to banish, and it really doesn't matter like hugely at this point, but I do want to get rid of Doyon because it is a lot of the recycling power. I just want to get rid of a lot of the monsters that will actually be potentially impactful later on, like trying to think of potential top decks, things like the Idol Reborn. Here I'm reading like Hiyari's other effects, because again, I'm trying to familiarize myself. But the Achichi was already banished, so I think I go for the Gachiri instead, as well as the Lingaribo. So just anything that potentially has value in grave, I'm just trying to stop at this point. So we just go ahead and banish those off the Aerial. But from here, there's not really a whole lot for me to do, so just go to end phase and resolve Skarm. And here, I deliberate on going for Tour Guide. Again, just have another push for next turn, because I think I have another one left. But I'm just going to go for Graph, which seems a little bit weird, but I'm kind of, accounting for the fact that Raro Cybers can just pop my my app clone, and then I could just use the effect of app clone to go and add a Shaddoll back, and then pitch Graph, and then go from there, whether it be me getting a Farfa or me going for Skarm. But he's actually going to pop my Nightmare Phoenix instead. And then he's going to try and attack into the app clone, which can't be destroyed by battle. And also the Colleen Nightmare Phoenix also couldn't be destroyed by battle. So neither of them could have been destroyed by battle no matter which one he picked. But yeah, he goes for it. And then I top deck another copy of Lava Golem, which is pretty insane. So we go ahead and summon it. But we can't really out it because the app clone's not big enough to do it. So we actually just are forced to pass again since we do relinquish our normal summon for the turn. But yeah, there's the out to rival CyberStatic Gnister, and Lava Golem coming in here. I wouldn't say it was like super clutch, but actually no, that's a lie. It was pretty clutch. It was pretty good. But yeah, he's gonna draw. It's another copy of I Meet You right here. So he's kind of like thinking about it. We were talking out loud right here because he was going on about which attributes he had remaining in his extra deck. And then I think Gabe points out a line for a game. So he has Light Dragon at Gnister in his extra deck, so he can reveal that for Picari. And then Picari grab the Reborn spell. He can Reborn anything and then use Picari to level modulate to become level 4. And then go for Light Dragon and then pop the app clone and then go for game. So that's going to be the line that he goes for right here. He's just going to try and make it so that he can actually, assemble lethal this turn because I'm on 43 as you can see. But yeah, he actually, I think, doesn't really account for the fact that I searched for the graph off of the app clone and that I could pitch it because you could send any card, not just Shadolls. So really good stuff. And yeah, there's Gabe kind of just pointing out there that you could just modify the levels, even though Nick didn't have any level 4 Gnisters in his grave at the time. But yeah, he's going to go for it. He's going to pop my app clone. We're going to use app clone's effect right here, and that's going to add us back just any of the Shaddoll cards, and then we're going to pitch Graph. And then we're going to go ahead and off the graph, we're actually just going to summon a copy of Barbar right here, I believe. And here's what he realizes that he actually just loses to my Lava Golem because the Lava Golem is going to burn him next turn, and then I'm just going to be able to set a Shaddoll Dragon to be able to clear my own Barbar and burn for game. So Barbar plus the Lava Golem burn is going to actually be enough to do it, and we actually take this matchup here against Gnisters 2-1. And thus wraps up another episode of Rise of the Budget Duelist. This one was a little bit weird because we didn't actually go and attend locals, so I think there's a little bit less to reflect on. But that being said, I still think that these were pretty interesting changes and worthwhile for sure. The Shaddoll package especially was cool to kind of play around with, and I want to do it a bit more. So very likely what I'm going to do next week is actually just not make changes and just play with this exact same list for locals and just see exactly where we end up. because a one match sample size really doesn't do it. I know like it's not really that much bigger of a sample size just to go to locals, but it gives us more intel on various different matchups, which is better than just playing one singular best of 3. So I think this is worth kind of just messing around with and seeing if the Shadal package really is worthwhile to just keep in here for the time being. I think that it's a pretty decent go second option. There's obviously better cards in general to play, but I liked it actually quite a bit just as a way to kind of just mount more offensive pressure. And the app clone being able to just actually, recycle just Shadal cards and then trigger BAs actually definitely was an interaction I didn't really kind of expect to come up, but ended up coming up. So definitely is something to kind of mess around with. And also just being able to not make changes for an additional week will add effectively $10 extra into our surplus budget. So we can just keep adding more and more towards maybe things like eventually Zeus, which is really something I want to have my eye on because we just need more options going second. But that's going to be it. Not really going to have any key takeaways this time around. Just going to be wrapping things up right here. So thank you all so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like as well as any thoughts or feedback in the comments. Subscribe for more foreign and competitive video content. If you want to, you can follow me on all social media platforms or support me with links in the description as usual. And until next time, I'll catch you in the next video. See you guys.